We've talked a lot about like copywriting, the jobs that we do, how it's impacting that, but you've put together a few ideas of, ways that people might think about their jobs a little bit differently. Even if they continue to do copy and do marketing strategy, maybe some roles that they might take on in addition that are either enabled by AI or perhaps it's a shift because you don't want to compete with AI. Why don't you talk through a couple of those ideas?
Yeah, this is really less about just using AI and what you do. Some of them may involve using AI, but it's also where is the opportunity today? And some of these ideas are pulled from interviews that we've had. And every interview we've had on this podcast usually triggers one idea for like, oh, there's a job. And it may not be a typical writing job, but it usually involves something around our skill set of communication. Maybe it's designed, for someone who has more empathy, who's a good researcher, who's a creative thinker. The first one that comes to mind that I don't know why I'm personally interested in this one, is more of a trainer model. Well, I know why I'm interested in this. I like the idea of facilitating and training and helping people learn. And so there is this amazing opportunity as communicators and people for us to step into more of a facilitator role and more of a trainer role where we can teach organizations, it could be of all sizes, but definitely at the enterprise level, how to use these tools in their careers, in their day-to-day jobs. And there is going to be a huge need to provide this training at an enterprise level. And I'm thinking more of Microsoft Copilot. And, Forrester Research predicts that 6.9 million US knowledge workers will be using Microsoft Copilot in 2024. Many people have access to it at the enterprise level already, but they probably have no idea how to use it in their day-to-day jobs. And so that is a huge opportunity for us to learn it if we don't already know it and come in and present and help people develop those skills when they're busy and overwhelmed and struggling just to get their day-to-day job done. And so I'm drawn to that. If you are someone who likes to teach, it might be something you want to look into. It doesn't have to be Microsoft Copilot. It could be any tool that is useful in those businesses, but it may take some learning to really understand how to best use it.
Yeah, there's definitely an opportunity for copywriters to continue to train corporate groups on the principles of copywriting, message creation, communication, all of that. And if you were to go in with your own prompts, your own frameworks for using the tools and say, here's how I'm using Claude to do this, or here's how I'm using a tool like Jasper to do this other thing, I think it becomes really easy for us to augment training that we were doing before for these groups with the particular tools that they might be able to use then to create these things on their own. In the past, we'd be teaching them frameworks for copywriting. Now, maybe teaching those frameworks, but also saying, now here's how you plug it into an AI tool in order to get the results you need even faster.
The trick here will be focusing on one tool, and that can be a bit of a gamble because some tools may disappear overnight. So you definitely want to try to choose a tool like Microsoft Copilot that has a lot of money invested in it and will not disappear overnight, most likely. And not spreading yourself too thin because it will be hard to keep up and maintain a skill set on multiple tools. And then also be really clear on who is the ideal client. Are you working with enterprises? Are you working with small businesses of a certain size, but really knowing who your audience is and how could benefit that organization?
Yeah, if you're going to do this, understanding your X factor, understanding, the problem that you solve, understanding the unique mechanism or the way that you do things differently, all of that stuff that we do as copywriters for our clients and for ourselves becomes important too, so that you stand out from everybody else and become the go-to resource for whatever it is that you decide to train on.
Okay, another role, this one we've talked about before, but it's really pushing back and kind of pushing away from synthetics and using AI. We can call it the artisan. So it's really leaning and going even deeper into the craft as a specialist who is organic. And I think there are many opportunities to message yourself that way, to stand out and really send a signal that I do not use these tools, and here's why this will be better. And there could be an opportunity to even charge more for it and to really become known for being that artisan. I think there's so many great marketing opportunities there to stand out, but you really have to, lean into it and own it and go all the way. And I think we'll see more of that happening over the next year.
This whole idea reminds me of a demo video I saw a number of years ago from Saddleback Leather Company. So this is completely different from what we're talking about. But in the world of shopping and creation of bags by machines for the last several decades, Saddleback Leather Company leaned into the fact that all of their bags are handmade, hand stitched, and there was even the video I'm thinking of was called how to knock off a saddleback leather bag. And the CEO of the company literally steps through the creation of the bag, all of the different things that they do, and then says, if you're going to knock this off, you don't want to use cheaper leather here or not do a double stitch here or whatever. And I think this whole idea of humans creating for humans is one that's going to resonate with a lot of people. That's a lot of people won't, and they're going to want the machine created, whatever, the same thing that everybody has. But there is going to be there's going to be a big audience for those people who want to connect with humans, that don't want the synthetic boyfriend, synthetic girlfriend, synthetic copywriter. They want a real human who's going to talk to the real humans to buy their products.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. It's exciting. Another opportunity could be something we can call the culture-driven copywriter. So maybe it is a copywriter or like a messaging strategist who really leans into cultural sensitivity and nuanced understanding of a particular topic. So that means that you may use AI tools in different ways, but you are helping your clients who might also be using AI tools to really make sure that values are integrated, different perspectives are integrated, and experiences into the final message in a way that tools today just can't do that. And making sure it's relevant to kind of what's happening with current issues, but also connecting back to historical contexts and really going all in on a particular subculture or community. This is something that we've seen Peta O'Brien Day, one of our think tank members, do really well as she's kind of leaned into her own positioning as someone who can weave in values and even kind of a political stance into her clients' messaging to stay relevant and kind of not shy away from some more difficult topics that they may need to address in their own messaging. She's really gifted at doing that in a nuanced way. And so that's something that she's leaned into in her own brand. And, she's someone that I have seen have a really successful 2023. And so that's definitely working for her.
The key for me on this one is nuance. Leaning into culture, most people who do it aren't nuanced at all. And obviously we've seen some backlash against, mistakes that companies have made over the past year. So understanding the nuance, making sure that you're talking to the right audience, the products are a fit for that. That's what copywriters do today. So it's really just emphasizing those skills if you can do it well so that your clients don't misstep and don't make the mistakes that we've seen a few companies make over the past year or so.
Another opportunity and potential role could be as a conversational AI designer or a conversational AI copywriter. And that's something that I didn't fully understand when I first learned about it. I thought it was more just like actually writing in a conversational voice and tone. But this is actually about voice, AI generated voice content and developing that content. And we have a whole episode 19, with Susan Westwater, who lives and breathes conversational AI and has worked with some of the largest brands to develop this voice AI. And this is a whole huge opportunity for us to come in and to understand that landscape. It's different from what we do, especially as copywriters, but there's a lot of overlap, and it's something that is worth exploring if you're interested in that.
And this is one of those challenging areas where AI is going to have a massive impact that we don't even understand yet what's happening there. I'll just reiterate something that I think we've said in some previous shows, but we want to make sure that when you're putting content out into the world, you're not limiting it to one place like LinkedIn, because that stuff doesn't necessarily get picked up by AI engines. And so if you want to be found in the future by an SEO driven algorithm or, an AI algorithm, you need to be in places where the engines can find you and where they can crawl you and implement your information into their database. Some of that you may not want to share, which is fine. But if somebody's typing into, Google 2027 and saying, who's the best copywriter for SEOs, whatever, for tech, and I want to show up as that person, I need to be out there talking about that stuff now so that it's in the engines.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned this before too, but a great way to do that, which I think Christopher Penn mentioned, is to speak on multiple podcasts. And his whole point of view is like, it doesn't. We often just want to speak on the larger podcast because we want to have lots of listeners and make sure a lot of people can hear our name. But any opportunity, even for a small podcast with 5 listeners, if that transcript is published online, which many podcasts do publish transcripts now because it's so easy, and your name is all over that transcript with a bunch of keywords, then that is going to show up in different AI tools and chatbots. So that's another way to just get that exposure and make sure that you're relevant in search.
Yeah, the key is you want to be out there in order to be found.
Rob, I'm going to let you choose the next scroll link, maybe something that speaks to you a little bit more or you'd be more interested in digging into.
I kind of tapped into this earlier, but I think, the role is the optimizer, the person who is taking what AIs are producing and figuring out, like, how do I not just improve it, but how do I make sure that it's hitting all of the right buttons? How do I make sure that it's actually doing what we want it to do? That starts with prompt engineering and the inputs that we put in there, but there's a lot of massaging on the back end. But then there's also some organizational level opportunities here where you can be helping other people, a little bit like the trainer, but where you can be helping other people do the same thing so that you're consistent. It's almost like instead of a voice guide or an addition to a voice guide, you've got an AI guide for how you use AI throughout an organization. I think there's a lot of opportunities there as well.
Oh, that seems okay. So that feels like a different role. It's, what would you even call that? It's like more creating guiding principles and.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it more from a creation standpoint. So I don't want to be the person who's administrating the stuff, right? But there's so many opportunities, again, for helping organizations figure out how to use these tools and then use them in a way that doesn't go off the rails. And of course, there are going to be processes around that. And maybe there are roles there that would be interesting to people. But this whole idea that it needs to be optimized no matter how we're using it, I don't think is going to go away in the next year or two.
Yeah, that's really cool because we're all comfortable creating these brand guides for clients. Many of us do that already, but it's like, what if we added this other deliverable where we're helping them develop, AI best practices and perspectives for an organization for them to follow, given our expertise and then our skill as a writer to actually develop it in a way that people read it and understand it rather than just skipping over it and not using it.
Yeah.
Okay, another one, which I'm going to mention just because I think it's interesting, but it's definitely not my area of expertise, is the RPA specialist. And RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. So already, you lose me, right? But this is something that John Mullery has talked about on our AI podcast, and I think even our TCC podcast. And I see this as a huge opportunity to develop these RPAs that serve a specific task and have a specific purpose, right? They're solving a problem in our businesses on an operational standpoint. And we have the ability to create these. We can create these for our clients. We can create an RPA that has a specific purpose, and we can actually build it and sell it to our clients to help them solve that problem in their business. Like, it could have one thing that it does. Like, what would be a good example of that, Rob?
Well, I think the idea here is anything that you're doing over and over and over in your business, you should, it's already a candidate for automation or for, having a VA do it. So why not just have an AI do it? And using tools like Zapier or Make in order to link things together so that, let's say that you record a podcast and then using Zapier or Make, you link it to the AI that automates the transcript or, creates all of the video segments that you might want to share out into the world. And then, automatically uploads it to your website. Like, those things can happen and can happen automatically so that, when you update something or when there's a new a change in whatever the application is, all this stuff just happens. I do think there's an opportunity here. If you understand those technologies, it's not really a copywriting type job, but if you understand those technologies, helping clients set this stuff up is a game changer for your clients. It has a ton of value, especially right now, because there's so few people who can actually do this.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool to set it up where there's an intake form. Let's say my client has an intake form, but if I can create an RPA that extracts information from that intake form from my clients' customers, and then, uses it to create a Facebook ad that is actually relevant and is speaking to that audience as of, as of today. It's what's the words and language they're using. Like that could be really cool. And so
Right.
you think you're right. Like this is definitely more for maybe a technical minded person who's a copywriter and interested in exploring new areas, but there's so much opportunity here. I think we can all figure it out if we wanted to. Like we could dive deep into it and add that as a different side of our business.
I mean, the example that you use is a really good one. You take a testimonial that somebody leaves, in a type form, a jot form, or Google form, whatever, automatically creates an ad with an AI generated image, drops it into Facebook, and then watches the performance in Facebook for a day or two to see is it performing well or not, and it actually turns it off or increases the ad spend depending on the performance. Like you can set all of those parameters, you can set it all up so that it just happens automatically. And again, if they're optimized well enough and you know this process, I mean, imagine what, an ad could do that, takes $1 and turns it into two, and you're able to replicate that over and over and over. This stuff is the kind of stuff that literally could add millions of dollars to your clients' businesses if you understand how to string them all together.
Yeah, or it could be your own RPA that you're using for your clients that allows you to work with 20 clients a month rather than 2 clients a month. And like just allows you to move faster. And maybe it's again going to the intake form when your client submits information on the intake form. And maybe you have some surveys that go out, you get all that, and it's zapped into a template for a sales page. So you don't even have to populate the sales page. It's being populated by kind of the key stakeholders, right? The customers and your client. And so all you're doing is going in later and optimizing it and making sure it's working, but that could save you hours of time. So I think like it definitely can help us in our own businesses. It's allows us to work with more clients, or if you're really good at it, you could start to sell these and create these for clients. And that's like a whole other direction.
I'll mention one other before we run out of time here, but the offer specialist. In my opinion, this is one of the things that copywriters don't do that they should do more of. And that is helping our clients understand, is their offer actually a good offer? Oftentimes, we'll just assume that this is the offer and there's no way of changing it. So we write copy. The copy may be phenomenally good. You may even be talking to the right people because the offer is not so great. It falls flat. And of course, then we blame the copy. It wasn't good enough to sell the product. Well, oftentimes the product isn't good enough to sell no matter how good the copy is. And I think becoming a specialist in helping our clients improve their offers, what the value is that they're providing, the bonuses, the way that they tell that story, the way they structure payments, all of those elements that come into an offer, I think is a massive opportunity already existing before AI. And you can even use AI tools, again, if you have your frameworks for creating this, if how do you add bonuses to a particular type of product, you can feed all of that into an AI and have the AI help you make it even more valuable. So I think there's a massive opportunity there.
Yeah, and I'll just cover 2 more real quick. One, similar to the offer specialist, is the framework specialist. So helping clients create unique mechanisms is something that many of us are good at because we're creative thinkers and we understand how to put elements together in a way that's really clear and connects with a reader. And so this is something that, our clients typically struggle with. It's not easy to do it. And so if that's something that excites you, or maybe you enjoy doing it for your own business, that can be an offer that you put out into the world to create these for your own clients. One last one that we talked about before, so it's nothing new, but I think it's worth repeating, the brand strategist, and really leaning more into that brand side of what you do, because it's hard, as more of us use these tools and use the same tools and our clients start to sound like everyone else, the important part will be, how do you stand out? How do you get attention? How do you sound different and unique and relevant to your audience? And so the work we do as brand strategists will become even more critical than it has been. It's always been important. And that could be at an enterprise level, or it could be at an individual level if you're working with a client who just, wants to feel seen and understood, and to have you kind of take the essence of who they are and their brand and put that to words and paper and create that. Like that is something that is hard for a robot to do at this point.
Yeah, for sure. All of those are great options for people to be thinking about how our roles may change or be augmented in the future.
All right. So there are probably plenty of other options that maybe we'll share in future episodes as we gather more ideas. But hopefully, this is a good place for you to get started or maybe just feel re energized thinking about what's possible for you in the year ahead.
And because I teased it at the beginning of the episode, let's mention some of the things that we need to be focused on in 2024.
You've just watched a clip from AI for Creative Entrepreneurs. Find the full episode on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to this channel to never miss the best bits.